Hi kids, your video for today is on adding and subtracting fractions. And our goals, first of all, would be to find common denominators, because we do have to find common denominators before we can even add or subtract a fraction. And then the second goal includes being able to add and subtract fractions and mixed numbers. So the first thing we need to do before we can add or subtract fractions is to find least common denominators. And sometimes you'll see that written as LCD, which stands for least common denominator. So in order to find the least common denominator, we need to use our multiplication table, and we need to look for multiples of the two denominators. In this case, 3 and 4. So when we multiply the denominators by 1, 1 times 3 will be 3, and 1 times 4 will be 4. When we multiply them both by 2, 2 times 3 will be 6, and 2 times 4 will be 8. So nothing in common yet, so we keep going. We multiply the denominators both by 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 4 is 12. And we still have nothing in common, so we need to multiply them both by 4. 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 times 4 is 16. Now you may be saying stop, because we have found a common multiple, which is 12, and 12 then is going to become our new common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite this question with common denominators of 12. And now that we found our common denominator to be 12, now we can look for a relationship or look for a pattern to find out what our numerator will be. So when we're looking here, 3 compared to 12, 3 times 4 is 12. So then on the top, we need to do the same thing. We need to multiply by 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. So then we look to our second fraction. 4 times what is 12? 4 times 3 is 12, so we need to do the same thing to our numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. And now that I've done that, to add fractions, I just add the numerators. 8 plus 3 is 11. And since I did all this work to find common denominators, I will keep the denominator, which is 12. So 11 twelfths will be my answer, and that is already in simplest form. So let's try another one. With this second set of fractions, we're adding once again. We don't have common denominators, so we need to start listing the multiples. So to list the multiples, we can say multiply them each times 1, and that's kind of redundant because we obviously already know what that's going to be. So let's multiply by 2. 2 times 8 will be 16. 2 times 24 will be 48, so we still don't have anything in common. So we better multiply by 3. 3 times 8 will be 24, and 3 times 24 will be 72. And now you can probably say that we should stop, because you see that we have the number 24 in common. So 24 is our common multiple, and therefore that's going to become our least common denominator. So I'll rewrite 24 as the common denominator of both fractions. And now we look to find the numerators based on the relationship. 8 times 3 is going to be 24. So we apply the same relationship, times 3, to the numerator, and 3 times 3 is 9. 24 times 1 is 24. So we apply that same relationship to the numerator, and 5 times 1 is 5. And just like the previous problem, we went through all the work to find a common denominator, so we're going to keep that thing as 24. We can add the numerators then. 9 and 5 is 14, and we get 14 24ths. But hopefully you're noticing that they're both even numbers, so we can simplify. So we'll divide the numerator and denominator by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. So we've simplified, and we get 7 twelfths. And then for our final problem, let's look at subtracting, and then let's look at mixed numbers as well. So with mixed numbers, just like with multiplication or division, we need to convert these mixed numbers to fractions that are greater than 1, and those are also called improper fractions. So to do that, we're going to multiply 2 times the 3, and we get 6, and then we add 1, and we get 7 halves. Now we'll multiply 3 times the 1 and get 3, plus 2 more is 5, so we have 5 thirds. But this isn't going to work because we don't have common denominators. So the next thing we need to do is start listing multiples and look for a common multiple. So if we multiply both by 1, we're going to get 2 and 3. If we multiply both by 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6. Multiply by 3, 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. And you can see that we've stumbled across a common multiple, which is 6. And that common multiple of 6, that's going to become our least common denominator. So I'll rewrite my fractions with common denominator of 6. And then we'll go ahead and look for the relationships. 2 times 3 is going to give us 6. So for our numerators, we'll also multiply by 3. 7 times 3 is going to be 21. And then 3 times 2 is going to give us 6. So we apply that same relationship to the top. 5 times 2 is 10. And now we can just subtract because this one is subtraction. We've done all that work to find a common denominator though, so we keep that denominator of 6 and we subtract 21 minus 10. That gives us 11. It is simplified, but we could rewrite it and we could say that 6 goes into 11 once with 5 left over and a denominator of 6. So 1 5/6. So to wrap up this video today, here's just a quick 5-step review of how to add or subtract fractions. First of all, make a list of the multiples for each denominator. Continue that list until step 2, when you find a common multiple. That common multiple will become your new common denominator, so you can rewrite each fraction with that new common denominator. Step 3 is to apply the same relationship to the numerators as you did to the denominators when you were getting the common denominators. Step 4 is to add or subtract just the numerators across the top, and step 5 is to keep the denominator. So that is the end of our review video for adding and subtracting fractions.